Whenever you're ready, Candace. Okay, good morning, everyone. Let's call this meeting to order at 9:30 a.m. Just off the top, a couple of things. Councillor Hickey isn't with us today in the room, but he will be joining us virtually via Zoom. Also, I want to take a second to acknowledge our CAO, Ann Mitchell. I know it came out in the media yesterday, but Ann was recognized with a Woman of Influence in Local Government Award through Municipal World. So obviously I know, Ann, you talked to the media yesterday. I know I did as well, and I just want to take this opportunity to congratulate you. Obviously, Council is very proud of your accomplishment. And as Claus and I were just talking, you know, we've seen a lot of great things since you've been here at the county. It's been great for Council to work with you, and I know your staff is very appreciative of the work you put in, your guidance, your leadership, mentorship, and it's something that we really appreciate. And it's, quite frankly, it's just great to see women succeeding in local government, and I think you've set a very high bar for those that follow you. So thank you. First off, let's, if you have all been presented with an agenda, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I asked for, see if we could have an addition on it for the support of customs at the airport, but was it not possible to have that on here today?
No, I did. Maybe I didn't make that clear, though, Councillor Zeenstra. We do want to have a report to go with that, so it'll be coming forward on the 18th, November 18th. It just needs to have an accompanying staff report with it.
Okay, thank you.
If none, I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda as presented. John? Any discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Moving down to our minutes. First off, we'll do the County Council meeting minutes from the 28th of October. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? Claus?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Not, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And now on to the organizational meeting minutes of the 28th of October. Any errors or omissions in those minutes? John?
I can make a motion that we accept the minutes for the organizational meeting as presented.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you, John. Is our delegation here, Ann?
Just right. Morning, sorry. Used to the train crossing a major highway.
You betcha.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Put you right
Right in the hot seat, eh? Oh, too much paperwork.
Well, you've got too much gear to sit.
Too much stuff, yes.
Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Thank you for joining us. I'll let you introduce yourself, and then maybe we'll go around the table quick.
Sure. So we're keeping masks on in here, just so I'm clear, or?
You can take it off
Okay,
while speaking if
just
you'd like.
Very
Yep.
hot, yeah.
And if you could speak into one of the mics, that'd be great.
Great. So I'm Staff Sergeant Mike Numan. I'm with the RCMP, obviously. I'm brand new to Lethbridge area, Coaldale Detachment. I've got 23 years service in the RCMP, 9 years with the Motor Transport DOT before that. So Alberta boy, always wanted to stay in Alberta and have so far. So touch wood, I've been lucky that way. Yeah, just a little bit about myself. Been a detachment commander in Ponoka before here. And then I did a 3 or 4 year stint with our head office, doing more administrative type stuff, and really wanted to come back down south for family reasons, and this came open, and I get to open a brand new detachment and kind of start fresh, so looking forward to it. And lots of experience with rural policing, most of my experience throughout Alberta. I feel like I'm not talking to the people behind me here, sorry. And yeah, I'll stop there and open any questions, and really just pleased to meet you all, and looking forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Staff Sergeant. Maybe we'll start over at that side of the room with our CAO.
Ann Mitchell, CAO. Big bet.
Nice to meet you again, man.
Hi, I'm Larry Randall, Director of Community Services. Good to meet you as well.
Hello.
And Jennifer Place, Manager of Finance and Administration.
Okay.
Jeremy Whitson, Director of Public Operations.
Gavin Healy, the Infrastructure Manager.
Warren Zinstra, Lacey Stipend, this is on the northeast end of the county.
Okay.
Tori Campbell, I'm counselor for Division 2, which is Coaldale east, south, and north to the river, and I'm also the Reeve this term.
And I'm Klaus Vanderveen. I'm a councillor for Division 6.
I'm John Purvis. I'm counselor for Division 4, and my division encompasses basically as far north as Diamond City and then in and around Colehurst, that general area.
Yeah, Mark Stairs, Division 3, and so my area is 845 to the city, the river, down to the jail road area. So.
Great.
Awesome. Floor is yours if you, for whatever you'd like to discuss.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess my understanding of the meeting today is introductions and to answer any questions you had.
Okay.
Also, just trying to get my head wrapped around the whole detachment area and different service delivery that we need to provide. So really open to questions and answer, and really have a good communication with your CAO, I think, already. And if there's ever any questions or concerns, please either reach out to me or email. I know Ms. Mitchell has my contact information. I provided you a report, I believe.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. That's a new quarterly report that the province, that we are providing to all the communities. So that goes to every community that we serve. And it really is it's a quarterly report that gives you an idea of what's happening in your rural area throughout the county. So I had a quick look at it, and numbers are only numbers, and they're only as good as people reporting crimes and that type of thing. So I guess my big message that you guys can and pass on is to make sure that people report things that are happening, not just ignore it, or the police are too busy. Put that message out there, because if we don't know what's happening, it's very tough for us to respond. And if we notice a trend, then we can always put some resources towards that and deal with it. But if we don't know, that's our biggest challenge. Is statistics are only as good as they are made out to be or reported. So nothing. Numbers are pretty low. I come from Central Alberta, much busier up there. I was in Ponoka, Wetaskiwin area, and definitely high numbers. But down here, if you have an increase of 4 or 5 things, it looks like your percentages are really high, but really it's went from an incident of 1 to 4 or 5, like the drug charge, for example. If we get a big drug charge, that will inflate the numbers. So I didn't see anything that caught my eye that was out of the ordinary, and I'd certainly be open to questions or concerns or anything. I did want to chat a little bit about, I don't know this council if they're familiar with, or if Glenn Henry talked about the us hubbing with Picture Butte attachment.
Yes.
And Unfortunately, however that was rolled out, it still is not a permanent thing. So one of my first missions is to make that either we're going to do it or we're not, but we're going to move on. So it was done kind of backwards. So I'm going to do up a business case. I wanted to speak with all the community partners, make sure that you're aware, and if you're on board, which I was part of Wetaskiwin and Camrose, that we amalgamated Camrose, and it's working really well. Coverage, service delivery, duplication of services we've reduced. So I think it can happen here, and I think it would be very positive for all the communities. So I would like to have, and I don't know if you provided a letter of endorsement previous to this or not, but I would like to have that letter of endorsement that you're aware, any questions that I can answer, and that we move forward together to make sure that we provide the best service we can to all the communities. And combining our resources from Coaldale and Picture Butte will give us the ability to do a bit of a zone policing where we have members, let's say, on the west side of the river and members on the east side of the river, and we still provide all the same services at Picture Butte, front counter service, that will still be an office. We just won't have jail cells there. We won't have exhibit room. It will just all be amalgamated and not duplicate services. So that's kind of my vision there.
Klaus?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was of the understanding that the amalgamation had taken place already, and that everything was dispatched from Coaldale, and that we still had the office in Picture Butte, but that was about it, and that we did have just about 24-hour service in that area.
Right. So it's still running under the pilot program, which, 2 years on a pilot program is kind of, it's never taken the official step. We still have separate accounting, so we have to officially do it and move forward with it that way. We are, right now with Picture Butte and Coaldale, we are amalgamated and we are working together to answer calls for service. But to make it official, there's a lot of administrative steps. We have to notify the province, all those official things that haven't been done. So this is more of a pilot that's been going on. So yeah, you are correct. It is sort of happening, but it's not officially been completed. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, thank you for coming and chatting with us. We appreciate it. My district, or my division, actually goes down to that thin sliver of land that is in between the Oman River and the city of Lethbridge that encompasses Sunset and Mountain View. And when I was around chatting with the constituents there, one of their major concerns is response time and lack of presence, because they seem to have a number of youth that are going down into the parks and being young people, not acting responsibly. But is there, if you could maybe put some focus or some thought process on how that area could maybe be better serviced, because coming in out of either Picture Butte or Coaldale, it's a pretty significant response time.
Yeah, and that's, that is a bit of a concern now, especially when we talk about going through west of the city, Colehurst and right. So that's why my thought is the Picture Butte detachment is much quicker response time to come south from Picture Butte than it is to go, like I just experienced it coming through Highway 3 here. And then of course you hit the train and then you're waiting. And anyways, it's not very good. There's two places across the river here. So we kind of got to be strategic in how we deal with that. But certainly, are those things being reported, or is this just constituents that have made you aware of it and we're not aware of it?
They've made me aware of it. I've encouraged them to call in and report the activity. They, some of the residents of the area have said that they have called, and that they call, and then for a few days there's a little bit more of a presence, and then it wanes off, and then it happens again, and they're, so yeah, I believe that they are reporting it. At least that's what they're telling me, but it is something that is of a focus for those folks.
Yeah, for sure. And it'd be important for them to make sure they call, so we know when it's happening. Call at the time, not the day after, or just so that we can send some resources down there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's part of the, you know, if we can, if we have members working in both areas, response time, and my expectation will be get out of the office, and I mean, we all have too much paperwork to do, and that's unfortunately part of this job, but we do have computers in the vehicles. Members can do some of the stuff they need to do, and let's get out to the communities that, you know, the far-reaching areas. So that will be one of my priorities as well.
Thank you very much, and I think we all acknowledge. I know during the previous term, you know, we obviously had a very strong relationship with Staff Sergeant Henry, and we really appreciated. And prior to that, with the Butte detachment as well, I think we're quite aware of the large task you have at hand with obviously the size of the county and your other commitments as well within the region. So anything we can do, obviously, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. If a letter of support would be of help, we could most definitely do that for you. And like I say, anything else that we can do, we're more than willing to work with you. I know we have a great media person here at the county. I'm sure we could maybe try and push out some of that messaging again. I know in the past there has been we have pressed people to try and report activity. That's, you know, obviously the first step, and we can definitely do that again. But if there is anything else, please don't hesitate to ask.
Absolutely. So yes, I would like to have a letter just indicating that you're aware and understand the process and support it. That would be great moving forward, so that all our stakeholders and partners know, and the province knows that we've consulted with everybody. So that would be awesome.
Awesome.
The second thing, if there was a chance, and I spoke with Ms. Mitchell about this earlier, is if with COVID it's tough, community consultation is important to us as well as you folks as well. So if there was ever an opportunity for us to jump into, if you're having, I don't know if you're having virtual, and I think we spoke about that already. We'll see if we can set something up. But my bosses from Southern Alberta District would like to come and take part of that. More of a, not necessarily for you folks, but your constituents, open forum, question answer, where we can hear some of those concerns, like out of Division 4 there, just so that we're in touch with what the communities are wanting as well. So
awesome.
We'll set that up through Ms. Mitchell.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Great.
Anything else from council? Claus?
Just, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question I have for you, Staff Sergeant, that the Rural Crime Watch, I assume you are working closely with them if there's something the matter and everything like that. And in the last while in our area, how has it been? And like you just mentioned that you had a lot more in where you came from, but in this area here, is it going up, or are we pretty much steady?
Difficult for me. I've been here just maybe a month. I'm not too familiar. I haven't met any of the Crime Watch people yet. I don't know if they're actually still meeting with COVID. I know a lot of the committees have kind of taken a pause, or if they're active, but I haven't been in touch with anybody from the Rural Crime Watch. As far as rural crime, from my observations here, it's been pretty low. Let's say, for example, Coaldale, we are having in the town a lot of those petty thefts, bikes, going through yards, sheds, things like that. And these are people that we're aware of that are looking for money to buy their illicit substances, and a lot of it's coming from here, or property going back and forth. So we are working with our alert team and our crime reduction team out of Calgary, who come down quite often to focus on that. But as far as the rural goes, we're doing pretty good here from so far what I've seen. Unless we're not getting the stats reported or the crimes reported, because that's important as well. So.
I know Lyle Adams from the Pitcher Butte Crime Watch has been in and has asked for our support, so I'm sure we could make that connection for you too, and put you in touch with each other as well.
Okay, for sure.
Yep.
I'll be planning to go to the Pitcher Butte Council, and I met with the CAO there already, and he had mentioned the same thing, that there is a Crime Watch group that is active. But
awesome.
That's great.
Thank you. Anything further? Or?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, awesome.
I guess I'll speak with Ms. Mitchell as far as frequency of you wishing for me to attend. Like kind of seems natural we do a quarterly report, so maybe after that report is released, I will provide it, and then we'll make plans to come within that next month
Yeah.
to see and touch base with you folks, if that works.
That would be fantastic. Yeah, we're always welcome to have you, and we appreciate your willingness to come. So thank you.
Sure, you betcha.
It
Awesome.
just, your predecessor did mention a possible tour of the new facilities. And I know that's challenging with COVID, but.
Oh, yes, for sure. We can certainly, we'll see how this pandemic
Yep.
rolls out here, but that would
Yeah.
certainly be an option to come and have a look through the detachment, you bet.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate you coming today.
Thank you. And I think we were on TV yesterday together.
Yes, we were.
Yeah.
And with Tori.
Yeah, that's right, all three of us. Yeah. I watched the 11:30 news and we were there.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Nice to meet you all. Take care.
First off, could we have a motion to direct staff to draft a letter as Staff Sergeant Newman had suggested? Would someone be willing to do that? Mark? Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks, Mark.
Good morning.
Good morning, Steve and Hillary.
Good morning.
I will, I think, is this your first time in front of this council, Hillary?
Yes, it is.
I will give you the opportunity to introduce yourself then.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hello, my name is Hillary Jansen. For the two councilors who we've met somewhat informally, but I'm the supervisor of planning and development here in the county. So I deal with anything that deals with planning and development, subdivisions, area structure plans, bylaws, road closures, leases, land sales, you name it, I can do it. So if you have any questions, you can talk to the CAO, Ann, about anything, and she can forward that on to me. And I'll let Steve introduce himself.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Steve Arty. I'm a planner with the Oldman River Regional Services Commission that Lethbridge County is a member of, and I assist the county on land use and planning matters and on subdivision applications. So.
Thank you, Steve. So we did migrate to a system where we try to have one meeting a month with emphasis on our planning and development, and this is our planning and development meeting for the month. So welcome to Hillary and Steve, and we will get started with our first subdivision application, subdivision 2021-0-152 Murray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this first subdivision application that's here for your consideration today is Lot 10, Block 15, Plan 011066 within the hamlet of Shaughnessy. This application is to split an existing large hamlet residential title into two equal portions. I'm just going to scroll out just so all of council is kind of aware of the location of this particular title. So this is the hamlet of Shaughnessy. And so as you can see, this title is on the very east end of the hamlet there. And as mentioned, they want to create two equal lots, approximately they would be about a quarter acre in size each. And I'll get Steve to run through the planning comments and the recommendation.
Hey, Mr. Chair, this application in Shaughnessy is to split a large parcel to create two lots as mentioned. which will be fairly decent sized lots at 73 by 169 feet in size. The land use bylaw minimum Hamlet residential lot size is 50 by 100 feet, so it exceeds that. As you can maybe see from the air photo and the sketch in the package there before you, the applicant here has a dwelling located on the west side, kind of in the northwest corner of the lot. A few other smaller structures, a playhouse and such, and a garage on the property. And they're going to kind of split it down the middle there between the two buildings. You can see that in the southeast corner where Hillary's got the cursor there, there's another newer dwelling being under construction there, that's being located. So they're just split in between to create a separate title on the east and west side. As part of this application, one of the items we have to deal with, you can see that there is a shed on the south down there encroaching into the county's lane on the south side. So as part of approval of the subdivision, the applicant will have to relocate that shed so it's entirely onto their own property and meets the bylaw setbacks. So there's no encroachment issue in the end. As part of the subdivision, you can see at the north end there, the owner, the applicant, will be required to extend 2nd Street north towards the east there, because the current Hamlet roadway is not a through road. It doesn't go all the way, so they'll have to extend that roadway on the east side at their expense to the county standard in order to provide proper physical and legal access to the east lot that's being creative, which the applicant is aware of, that they'd be required to do that. So typically that type of matter is addressed through, as you will see on the resolution, there's a requirement to enter into a development agreement with the municipality, and that development agreement will be used to address the terms and the standards of the applicant providing that road to the county standards. As well, the applicant also is responsible for addressing any of the servicing of what might be required. Shaughnessy is on municipal water and sewer infrastructure, so this subdivision is possible in order to be subdivided and be properly serviced. One of the things that we look at as well here is that as part of this application, we had to get normally we'd have to get, the applicant have to get what's called clearance from the Alberta Historical Resource Administrator. A large portion of Shaughnessy is all under a historic resource identification order, largely to do with the past coal mining activities of Shaughnessy. But in this case, the pre-circulation and consultation with the Director Administrator of Historical Resources, he waived that requirement, so they don't have to apply or do anything special for that. So with that, I have recommended to you that the application be approved subject to the conditions outlined on the draft resolution. Recommendation is made on the basis that the county does have municipal water and sewer infrastructure in the hamlet, so this lot can be serviced to connect to the municipal service system. The lots exceed the bylaw's required lot size for area, width, and depth. And this application also meets, the county does have some hamlet growth studies for all the hamlets, and for Shaughnessy as well. And this does fall in line with the county's initiatives to encourage and develop and grow the hamlets for residential growth. So with that, during the circulation of this application, there were no special requests from utility companies for easements or anything like that. And there was no objection to the subdivision. I have recommended approval to you, as you'll see on the draft resolution there. There's 5 conditions. When I originally sent it out for your agenda package earlier, The fifth condition referred to easement requests. We've since heard back from all the utility companies and we don't need anything. But I have recommended approval to you with the conditions of the taxes being paid and up to date, that development agreement be entered into to address the road situation there. The applicant will have to provide a plan of surveyor from a Burr land surveyor. We just initially here we used our own sketch that we did up to assist them, but it have to be properly surveyed. And then the fourth is that the applicant has to move that shed located on the south into the county's lane, so there's no physical encroachment over the property line in the end. And they must do that prior to us endorsing the subdivision and signing off on it. That has to be demonstrated that that's been done. So with those conditions, Mr. Chair, that's my recommendation for you.
Thank you, Steve and Hillary. Any questions from council? Claus?
I'll follow the recommendation that the subdivision application 2021-0-152 be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Thank you, Claus. Any discussion? I will call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks, Claus.
Reeve Campbell, we'll just keep you apprised to whether Councillor Hickey would like to speak at any point.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Okay, moving down, subdivision application number 2 for today, subdivision application 2021-0-166, Horvath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this second subdivision application is for Lot 2, Block 1, Plan 1410472, which is within the east half of 26921, west of the 4th. And it is to create a 47.54 acre parcel from an agricultural title of 215.57 acres for country residential use. It is noted in the executive summary that this proposal does not meet the subdivision criteria and policies of the land use bylaw. Just in terms of the location, Mr. Chairman, I will note that this application is to the northeast of the city of Lethbridge on at the corner on Range Road 21-1 and close to Township Road 9-4. And so I will let Steve go through the planning comments and the reason for the recommendation. And I do believe he also has some images to show you as we go through this. Thanks.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as explained, this application is to create a large parcel at 47.45 acres. There's a existing yard up in the northeast that contains a dwelling, a number of outbuildings, and a dugout. As you can maybe see where Hillary's showing there, they're looking to take that yard but also run the line straight to the west. So that whole upper area there where Hillary's showing you with the cursor, everything above that is what they're looking to subdivide. That comprises that 47.5 acres. And looking at the photo there, that northeast developed yard area itself comprises about 12 acres if we exclude the dugout. And then if we move to the west and include that kind of dugout pasture area in there, it comes to 20.5 acres. And then including that cultivated land on the west side there, that bumps it up to the 47.45 acres. So there's a few issues with this application, which the applicant was aware of. We had consulted previously prior to them actually sticking in an application. So they're aware of the issues. Just as a little background here, this is a kind of a historic area. There's a number of titles. There's some 80 acres. You can see the one that Hillary is showing here. I kind of tried to delineate the section for you to kind of get a perspective there. So you can see on the west side, there's a number of 80 acres titles. On this east half there's a 60 acre down the bottom that's been there pre-subdivision rules requirements, probably from about the 1940s, early 1950s maybe. That 60 acre was created. The county doesn't allow creation of a 60 acre parcel ever since about 1967. That hasn't been part of the policies. So that was previously done. And then on this kind of subject parcel area there, back in 2013, an application was made by a family member to subdivide out a 3 acre residential yard where Hillary's kind of showing you that little triangle area. But it was coming from a previous subdivided quarter section. So in order to obtain that subdivision, the remnant 96.34 acres was required to be consolidated with the north title, which created the subject parcel we're dealing with now. They amalgamated that together with the idea the county does have a policy that we can move boundaries around between parcels if we start with the same amount that we end up with, so it's not an additional subdivision. So that yard in the corner was approved on that basis that the title they were coming out of be consolidated together. And just going back a little bit further than that, if Hillary maybe, yeah, if you start there. This is kind of what the parcel was like about 15 or 20 years ago. And subsequent to that at the north end, where Hillary's showing you with her cursor there, a subdivision was taken out of that parcel on the same basis that they consolidate the remnant land to the north. So if Hillary goes to the next picture, you can see that a subdivision was taken out there, and then that residual land was consolidated to the north. So he started with 2 titles, ended up with 2. One got smaller, one got bigger. Then subsequent to that in 2013, this application that I was just explaining came, where they took out that south corner yard, and then they consolidated it was about a 90 acre or so parcel there to the north to create this parent parcel that now they're coming back to subdivide again. There's the proposed subdivision. To just kind of give you a perspective over time, kind of what's going on this end and why, in a sense, it's a bit messy on that side. But if we look here, this application now that they want to do this additional subdivision doesn't comply in a number of areas. The parcel that they want to create would be an additional subdivisions if we look at it technically out of both quarter sections, just the way, if we're looking at the way the traditional quarter section lines are. The 47.54 acre size exceeds the maximum 10 acre area, the 10 acre policy that the county has for a country residential or acreage yard. That's the maximum parcel size. However, if you're to look at it as being an agricultural parcel rather than an acreage, because it's got the cultivated land there, it also doesn't meet the county's minimum 80 acre parcel size at that end. Is deficient on that. So either way, it doesn't meet the policy. As well, that subject title area it was coming from was created as a specific condition by council previously as a separate subdivision decision to approve a previous non-compliant subdivision in order to allow that to occur. So it would be extra subdivision here out of this area. I also know in the application that there is a confined feeding operation for 200 head dairy located across the road to the east. It doesn't meet the minimum distance separation that the county applies to separate acreages, subdivisions from confined feeding operations. In the discussion with the NRCB, the NRCB is not sure how active or not that dairy is, or if they're at their 200 head number if they are operating. However, that parcel of land has been purchased by Alberta Transportation for the future Canamix Freeway, and at some future point that dairy is likely going to disappear from there. Whether that's 20 years or 10 years or 50 years, don't know at this point, but that parcel is owned by Alberta Transportation, and at some point will be demolished, taken away for the Canamex when and if that occurs. But so it's noted as part of the application here that it doesn't meet the MDS. That permit's never been forfeited or given up for that dairy, so it's still on the books, so to speak. So that is another part of the bylaw that the application does not meet. However, I will note that that's not the most important, probably, or if it was the only consideration, because of the circumstances with the Canamix and that sort of a thing. But it is duly noted as part of the application. So, so as mentioned, to approve this application would require a number of waivers, both of what we call the standards, that's the parcel sizes, but it also require policy waivers, and it has to do with the number of subdivisions that council has in the policies or subdivision policies of applicable to the different zonings of land, in this case agriculture in the county, in order to prevent fragmentation, give each landowner the same opportunity and rights and that sort of a thing. So to approve, you would need about 3 waivers there. So I have recommended, on the basis of it not meeting a number of the criteria and policies, refusal of the application, for the reasons that the subdivision criteria only allows either 1 subdivision per quarter section. In some limited circumstances, there might be 3 with some resplits or those sorts of things, but those circumstances don't pertain to this application. The bylaw stipulates a maximum 10-acre parcel size or 8-acre minimum, and at 47.54, this meets neither of those. And as well as I mentioned that this area has already been previously subdivided and the land consolidated together to allow a previous subdivision to occur. So, so I have recommended refusal to you on that basis. The applicants are aware of that, and they do know that I would be recommending a refusal to you. The applicants did apply anyways. They're hoping that you would approve their application of what they applied for, and then wanting to separate that yard and the extra cultivated land there. They do have a pivot on the south, and they have a separate wheel line movement on the other portion to the west there, and they would like that whole 47.54 acres. They also made the application on the basis that they did anticipate that you may not approve it, and on such basis they indicated that then they would like to appeal that to the appeal board and try to convince them to approve their application, and so they understand that that's the route that would be open to them if a refusal was given today. I will mention that in your package there, I did up the refusal. I will mention that this is a little bit more detailed than what you might normally see as part of the resolution with the reasons, and the purpose for that is just anticipation that they may appeal it if you did refuse it to the appeal board, and it just gives the appeal board up front the information of the policies, the reasons why it was refused. So just the 4 reasons there, basically it's just a little bit more detail about not meeting the parcel sizes, the land being previously subdivided, the consolidation that occurred, and the CFO across the road. So that if you were to refuse it, this becomes part of the package that goes to the appeal board, so they would have that detail up front there that they could see. So with that, Mr. Chair, if there's any questions, I do have the recommendation of the refusal based on those reasons as explained for you.
Thank you, Steve. CEO Mitchell?
Just a question from Councillor Hickey. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's just on Canamix Highway. 45 acre subdivision. Is it on the west side of
Lauren, sorry. Lauren, can you mute your mic? Or what? Just your computer, if you can turn the volume down. What?
I did get what his question was.
Oh, okay. Hillary's got what your question is, I think.
I believe I heard it, so if you
Okay.
can listen, I
Yeah.
do believe I understood what Councillor Hickey was
Hang on.
referring to, Mr. Chair.
Well,
And that
let's
he
ju-
was
let's
asking
let's
about.
just let's just wait 1 second here.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Hillary.
He was asking about the location of the Canamex corridor, and I apologize, I forgot to put on that particular layer on the map here. These yellow lines indicate the location of the Canamex corridor, like the, what do you call that? Sorry, the plan that the province has given us.
Gazetted.
The gazetted plan, thank you. So it does not touch this 47-acre parcel. So unlike the one to the north, where it goes straight through, and also the one to the east, this parcel that they're proposed did by the proximity to the Canamex corridor.
Thank you. And if that's if you'd like something further, Lauren, please just let Candace know and we can address that. Any other questions from council?
Delay. It's a delay. That box is gonna go very soon.
Seeing none, how would council like to proceed? Claus?
Well, since there's 4 major issues that are connected with this, in order to be able to give our blessing on this subdivision, I think that it was pretty clear what Steve told us here, and I think that with that said, I will make the motion to that subdivision application 2021-0-166 be refused for approval for the reasons as outlined in the draft resolution.
Thank you. Any discussion from council? Seeing none, I will ask the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Moving down to our third subdivision application for today. Subdivision application 2021-0-176 Dyck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for this final subdivision application today, this application is to subdivide out a 4.98 acre title from an existing quarter section. This would be the first parcel out of the quarter. This parcel is located to the south, fairly south and east of the town of Coaldale. So once again, just for perspective, I will highlight the parcel and then zoom out a little bit. So you can see the town of Coaldale is right up in this very northwest corner there, and this parcel is to the southeast. This particular application does meet the subdivision criteria that the county has in the land use bylaw, and I will let Steve go through the planning comments and the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This application in front of you is your more straightforward application with a first parcel out farmstead subdivision from the quarter section. So it is the first subdivision out of the quarter section and eligible for consideration based on the existing yard that's there. They've applied to create that 4.98 acres in the very southeast corner. As you can see from the picture here and the way the pivot is, and in your package, the parcel, they are angling the proposed property line on the northwest side there to account for the buildings, but also for that irrigation pivot on the land there in order to exclude that pivot area. It is a developed farmyard with the dwelling, garage, hay sheds. There's multiple sheds and grain bins on it. So the parcel size, based on the improvements present, does conform with the land use bylaw. They have a private hauled water cistern system and an on-site private septic field. The lands are located north of the house, and they will stay within the parcel and subdivided here, so they won't be encroaching over the property line. So as a first parcel lot subdivision, this meets that criteria. There's no abandoned gas wells or confined feeding operations in the area that would impact it. Out in this area as well, we don't have any special historic resource or environmental considerations that will affect it. So I have recommended approval to you as a first parcel subdivision. It is the first subdivision out. It meets that minimum 2 acre, maximum 10 acre based on the yard area, parcel size criteria of the bylaw. And they do have their servicing already in place there for that farmyard there that's existed there for years. I do have, since that package came out to you for the agenda, I did receive 3 more utility comments back, Fortis, Telus, and ATCO Transmissions. None of them require an easement or have any objections to the subdivision. So with all the utility companies, everybody but AltaLink have responded now to this point. So I have recommended approval to you, subject to the conditions of that the taxes are paid and up to date, and that if required, a development agreement be entered into with the county, and then just the easement from the utility companies. I don't suspect AltaLink's going to require anything, but as mentioned, they're the ones that haven't responded to this point. So with those conditions on there and it conforming to the bylaw, that is the recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions from council? Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That right-of-way of the St. Mary's down there, is that an open canal or is that a pipeline?
You mean the one in the south, that
Yeah, the
southwest,
south,
southwest corner there? It's piped. It's a piped.
It's a
right,
pipe?
It's a piped right of way, yeah.
Pipe, yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Steve?
Mr. Chair, just to note, you'll see on there, sometimes the irrigation company, you'll sometimes see on the cadastral, the mapping, those lines on there for where the ditches were or used to be. Often the irrigation companies don't go back and remove those, discharge them, just because the cost involved at land title. So sometimes those show up there, but they're actually not physically there anymore. They've gone to pipe and such. But so sometimes it's a bit deceptive of what you see and what's actually in the ground. So,
Thank you, Steve. Any other questions from council? How would you like to proceed? Mark?
I would move that the subdivision application 2021-0-176 be approved, subject to the conditions as outlined in the draft resolution.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thanks, Mark. Moving down the agenda, we will now proceed to G.2.1, Community Services, Development Permit Application 2021-223, addition and renovation to the City of Lethbridge Waste Transfer Station shop/office building.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to call Sarah Mitchell up. She's our development officer with the county. She's going to present this particular application. Just for the new council members' knowledge, for direct control, some of our direct control applications, they are required to come to county council for approval. This is one of those such direct control districts that requires county council approval, so that's why you're seeing this particular development permit here today. And I'll let Sarah carry on with the application.
Thank you, Hillary. On October 4th, 2021, Lethbridge County received a development permit application from the City of Lethbridge, which proposes an addition and renovation to their existing waste transfer shop office building. And just for reference, it is this building here. The proposed addition will measure 6,730 square feet in size and will cost approximately $3.2 million. A similar but larger addition to this building was previously approved by County Council under Development Permit 2018-028. However, it did not end up getting constructed, and since that time, their permit has expired, which is why they are reapplying at this stage. The proposed addition and renovation will consist of a shop space and a mechanical storage room. The application was circulated to other county departments, Alberta Transportation, the SMRID, and the Fire Prevention Bureau. The plans and documentation received with this application are thorough and complete. No concerns were received by those circulated. So the recommendation to council is that the development permit, which has been attached to your application, be approved as presented. There are a list of conditions on the application, on the permit, as including that they have to submit a fire safety plan, that they ensure that they have adequate water supply for fire prevention purposes, and so on and so forth. So that's it. Does council have any questions?
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions from council? Claus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is that that same spot as where they have the recycling facilities?
Mr. Chairman, the recycling, you can kind of see the faint outline of the recycling center, the foundation. Hillary's kind of pointing it out. So that's the MRF building that they call it. So that's the new building that was approved a couple of years ago by council. This, where they want to do the addition, is to their existing shop and office space, which is just to the southwest there.
Sorry, just council, just keep in mind, this photo is from 2018,
Yes.
so it's a little bit dated. So that's why this building is constructed in there already. That's why it's a little deceiving looking at the ortho for this particular purpose. But yeah, this is where their big recycling center is. Sarah and I have been there, took the gigantic tour and seen it all. But it's quite impressive. So this application just is kind of rounding out what the city is trying to do in terms of being progressive in terms of waste management on their site.
John?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the addition that they're looking at putting on is to the west of that existing building then? To where that row of trees is?
If you look on page 11 of your agenda package for this particular item,
Right.
you'll see that it's the areas in blue, right?
Yes. Yeah, so there's a small addition that will be on the
To
west side,
and then to the east.
and a
Oh, on both
larger
sides,
addition
okay.
to the east.
Thank you.
Anything else from council? CAO Mitchell?
Counselor Hickey? You want to tell him to speak? 'Cause- Oh, he can't hear, okay. He wants to vote when you call the vote, he'd like to vote.
Thank you. Any other questions from council? Seeing none, how would council like to proceed? Claus?
I would like to move that the development permit application 2021-223 be approved as drafted.
Thank you, Claus. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Moving down, G2.2, Bylaw 21-018, amendment to land use bylaw from direct control to direct control. Did I read that right?
Yep.
Okay, plan 1711672, block 2, lot 1 in the southeast 151022, west of the 4, first reading.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is one of those interesting applications that crosses my desk every once in a while. This is for the Crystal Springs Cheese Facility. This is located just a mile to the east of Park Lake. So back in 2018, they had requested to change their zoning so they could expand their more retail side of their operations out at this particular location. They've historically had their cheese making facility there for the last, I do believe it started in 1994. And so they've been making great progress in expanding. And so in 2018, they wanted to subdivide, which required them to rezone. And the best zoning at that time was determined to be a direct control district because it was site specific and would detail the uses that they wanted on site. So fast forward to today, and I have, in discussions with the applicant, they want to further their ability to sell different products in their store, one which would be the sale of craft beer and wines from both local and kind of more distance. I think they deal with people up into BC. They have a reciprocal relationship with some of these craft distilleries and breweries where they sell their cheese products there, and they would like to be able to do the same on their site to be able to have that opportunity. So with their current direct control, liquor sales are not a use that has been listed as either permitted or discretionary. So I advise them that if they wanted to pursue this, they would have to amend their direct control to include that particular use as a liquor store, so that they would be able to do that and then obtain their license from the Alberta Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Commission. I think that's what they're called. So with that, they did submit their application. I did do a site visit there yesterday just to determine where they would be locating this on their premises. It would be within their existing retail store. They have a very small storefront. I don't know if many of council has been to that facility. Small storefront. They sell a wide variety of their cheeses. They sell some other craft things from around the region, jams, jellies, that kind of thing that complement their product. And so this is, they see this as a next opportunity to expand and work with their partners in other areas. So with that, the application has been circulated to county departments and external agencies for review. Comments that are received will, as well as any relevant planning considerations, will be presented at the public hearing. It is anticipated that we would hold the public hearing in the first meeting in December if County Council approves first reading. The recommendation is that first reading of Bylaw 21-018 be read for a first time, and this would allow for county administration to set the date for the public hearing and send out the notices of the proposed bylaw, which goes into the Sunny South News and also is circulated to the adjacent affected landowners in the area. With that, if council is curious as to what would happen if you refused first reading of the bylaw, usually first reading of the bylaw is standard in terms of provincial legislation. The refusing of a first reading does not allow the applicant to have the opportunity to have a public hearing and have their day with council to determine whether or not there is value to their application being made. The public hearing process allows county council the opportunity to hear all positions, those in favor and opposed on a bylaw, and also helps them to make an informed decision on the application. If first reading of the bylaw is not given, the applicant could appeal that decision to the Alberta Court of Appeal. It's happened in other municipalities, obviously not in Lethbridge County, but it's something that just so council is aware of kind of why we follow this process of having first reading at the beginning, then we have the advertising, then we have the public hearing about a month to 6 weeks after first reading. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hillary, and thank you for providing some clarity on the process there. Any questions from council? Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an interesting application and makes me think down there because we do have several outlets in the county already what sell liquor. Were they kind of just grandfathered into it, or they had to go through the same procedure? Because some of them, they've been selling liquor for a long time already.
Through the chair to Councillor Zeenstra. So we do have, typically liquor stores are only allowed at this point in time in our hamlets. So we do have establishments in Shaughnessy and in Turin. And we used to have one in Monarch before the hotel kind of shut down. But those are the two locations that we have in the county. We do have one wine distillery, brewer, in the county who they also have a startup operation, and they are allowed to have a small retail component to their site also, and that one is kind of, but it's more, they do more wholesale than they would have retail. So, but those are the opportunities that we have right now for liquor sales in the county.
Thank you, Hillary. Claus?
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. So if I understand this correctly, this is only going to be beer and wine sales, but no hard liquor?
Thank you, Councillor Zeenstra, through the chair. With regards to the application, I've suggested that they put liquor store generally, but they're indicating, yes, that it would be just craft beer and craft wine.
Thank you, Hillary. Anything further from council? How'd you like to proceed? Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I like to move the recommendation that we approve 21-018 to go ahead.
So first reading of bylaw 21. Thank you, Morris. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Moving down, Planning and Development Department third quarter report 2021 Planning and Development. Hillary?
Thank you. So every quarter I do present to County Council the activities of the Planning and Development Department, just so you're aware broadly of what's been going on in our area of the office. The Lethbridge County Planning and Development Department takes direction from the bylaws and guiding documents that have been approved by County Council, including the Lethbridge County Municipal Development Plan, all the intermunicipal development plans that we have with our adjacent municipalities, the Lethbridge County Land Use Bylaw, and all area structure plans that are approved by County Council. The Planning and Development Department manages the issuance of development permits, amendments and updates to the Land Use Bylaw, planning projects, intermunicipal relations and referrals, road closures and licensing, land sales and leases, and the enforcement of the Land Use Bylaw and other planning-related regulations. In the third quarter of this year, the following duties were undertaken by the by the county's Planning and Development Department. We completed our review and update of the Lethbridge County Municipal Development Plan. This included the public consultation component of the Municipal Development Plan. So in January of 2021, we started this process along with County Council at that time. And we did 6 meetings with county council, workshops with county council, going through each component of the draft municipal development plan. And then, once we completed each section, we started sending out articles through the Sunny South News. You may have noticed them there. And we also had them posted to the county's website, our new What's Happening Lethbridge County website. And this was in consideration of, limiting the amount of in-person public meetings, and also getting out some good information that people could kind of review and send back some feedback to administration. And also, what we've done in this last quarter is we did the Fairview Hamlet growth study, and county council did approve that at the first meeting in October. So that concluded the growth studies that we did for all of the hamlets within the county. So all of the hamlets now have growth studies associated with them that we can refer back to when such things as subdivisions or rezonings come up, or if there's opportunities for growth in those areas. With regards to the Development Authority, so which is mostly within Sarah Mitchell's area as the development officer, from January 1st to September 30th, 221 development permit applications were received. This is a significant increase from 2020, where only 146 were received. So we've seen a really huge burst of applications been coming in, and it doesn't seem to be slowing down. I think we're at 243. Usually we cap around 200. So that's pretty significant for our planning and development department in terms of just the processing of all those applications. A total of 204 permits were issued, 1 was withdrawn, and 3 were refused. And this left 13 applications that were still in circulation at that point in time. Of the permits that were issued, 62 were residential, 42 were accessory buildings such as shops, sheds, garages. There's 35 commercial industrial permits. That's for both new and when somebody does an addition, or if they have a change in use. Those are the permits that would be in that category. 42 agricultural buildings, so those would be like hay sheds or farm style shops or barns. There's 3 signage permits, 10 home occupations. We have seen an increase in home occupations over the last couple years. I think that's we can correlate that fairly tightly to the COVID pandemic, just because people are finding different opportunities for work and working from home. There's 5 institutional, 2 demolition permits, and 3 recreational permits issued. So we've been quite busy on the permitting front this year. So Sarah's been hopping. With regards to building permits, the Lethbridge County contracts building permits, the safety codes permits to Park Enterprises between January and June. Sorry, that should be September. The following safety codes permits were submitted: 157 building permits, 299 electrical, 161 gas, 110 plumbing, and 41 private septic disposal system permits. In discussions with Park Enterprises over the last week, they've said that they've also seen a very high increase in the number of building permits, safety codes permits that have been coming in, and this is a provincial thing. Park Enterprises works for municipalities from central Alberta all the way to southern Alberta, so they see a very wide range of different areas, but they say this has been consistent across the board. For subdivision applications, County Council, acting as the subdivision authority, approved 24 subdivision applications. In addition, the subdivision authority also granted 1 time extension and 1 site plan revision to a previously approved plan. I'm not sure why I have 105 after that. Apologize. For the appeals, there have been 3 appeals submitted to the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board this year. 2 were refused development permits, and 1 was a subdivision appeal. The subdivision appeal was an appeal of a condition on an approved subdivision. The appeal board did uphold the decisions of both the development authority and the subdivision authority on all 3 of those development and subdivision appeals. Moving on to bylaws. So with regards to bylaws, there's road closures, redesignations, and area structure plans. We've had 1 road closure bylaw that was completed this year, and that was for the one in the Turin area. For redesignations, there have been a number of redesignations this year, as there usually are. But I'll let you go through that list. There's the last one on that list is the one that you heard for the first time today for the direct control. As you noted under there, it says it's under review. So the public hearing will be held in December, barring any changes to scheduling. And with regards to area structure plans, we have bylaw 21-010, which was the Ramius area structure plan. This area structure plan and the associated rezoning received first reading in August, and County Council at that time had requested that that plan come back with some revisions to it. I heard from the landowner that they're working with their consultants on getting that revision back to County Council, and we'll have to determine how County Council wants to move forward with that, just because there's been a slight change in the composition of council. So we'll have to determine if you want to hold another public hearing so that all of County Council can vote on it, or if you want just the councilors who were at that public hearing voting on it. So we'll have that discussion closer to that time, Mr. Chair. So with that, that is kind of in a nutshell things that have happened over the last 3 months. Some of them kind of span a little bit longer than that. But I will put it back to you, Mr. Chair, if there's any comments or questions.
Thank you, Hillary. I think, as you alluded to, I think it's exciting to see that level of activity within the building subdivision and other permitting. Obviously, it's great to see growth in the county. Are there any questions from council at this time? Morris?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just see that one figure down there that 109,000 the department received. Is that for all the permits and the applications and permits?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I forgot to mention that part. I kind of glazed over that. But under financial impacts, I did note in there that from Park Enterprises, which is solely just the safety codes permits, so the building, plumbing, gas, electrical, we have received $105,776.82 in revenue from Park Enterprises.
Claus?
So we received that from Park Enterprises. So Park Enterprises works for us. So how much was it the other way around that we had to pay Park Enterprise to do all the work?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through to Councillor Vanderveen. So with regards to our contract that we have with Park Enterprises, is that it's a 70-30 split on the development or the safety codes permits that are submitted. So they retain 70% of the permit fees, and they provide the 30% back to the county. And that's for having a sole contract for those permits in the area.
And the person that asked for the permit, they do pay these like the 100%, and
Yes.
then the 30 is ours and 70 is Park Enterprise.
That's correct,
Okay.
Councillor Vanderveen.
And would that be fairly consistent then? As you said, Hillary, they do cover a rather large area. Would that be consistent throughout the region, or would each municipality have a different agreement?
I do believe through the Reeve that there are different agreements in place, but I do believe for Park that's been fairly consistent. I think they've found that they've gotten a lot of value that way. I know when we put out the RFP for this, it would come back that I think the other competitor would have said 25%. So I think anywhere between 20 and 30% is common for municipalities if they have an agency doing that work for them.
Thank you, Hillary. If there's nothing further from council, Morris?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to move this report for information.
Thank you, Morris. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, why don't we take let's say a 12-minute recess, and we will return at 11 o'clock. All right, let's call the meeting back to order at 11 o'clock. And we are down at G3, Corporate Services, G3-1, Policy Review, Policy 122, Project Costing. And we have Jen. Morning, Jen.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going to remove my mask.
You bet.
'cause I know my voice is quiet sometimes.
Jen, would you like to introduce yourself to the new members of council?
Yep, Jennifer Place, Manager of Finance and Administration. So welcome and thank you. My first one here is just for the new council's benefit. Administration over the past year has been reviewing all of the policies that were in place, and it was found that there were some that were quite outdated, dated back to the 80s, some that weren't applicable anymore, and some that just required maybe some updating with new legislation and terminology and such. So we're nearing the end of that process, and I'm just bringing forward a couple more policies that require some review. So the first one is policy number 122, project costing. So this policy is somewhat outdated. It refers to a municipal committee as well as county council for project cost approval. This council or county no longer has a municipal committee, so that doesn't apply in this case. As well, the Municipal Government Act clearly outlines in Section 248 that a municipality may only make an expenditure that is included in an operating budget, interim budget, capital budget, or otherwise authorized by council. So no project costing without bringing that forward to council with a funding option happens, generally speaking. So that's another reason that this wouldn't apply. Also, it also states in 248.2 of the Municipal Government Act that each council must establish procedures to authorize and verify expenditures that are not included in the budget. So the next policy that we're reviewing is the purchasing policy, which would touch on that. So therefore, the recommendation of administration is just to rescind this project costing policy number 122.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions from council? Mark?
I would move that we rescind policy 122, project costing.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you, Jen.
Okay, thank you.
Moving down, policy review, G3.2, policy 170, purchasing policy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as mentioned earlier, this is the purchasing policy which was reviewed. Senior leadership team all took a stab at this. The original policy was adopted in 2017. Actually, prior to that, there wasn't a firm purchasing policy, so we did put one in place at that time. The policy is there to ensure that current guidelines and directions are in place for staff when it comes to purchasing, awarding of capital projects, use of the competitive process, emergency funding, and also includes a decision chart with thresholds and approval authorities for any unplanned or unbudgeted expenses or overages on capital projects that may happen. Overall, there were minimal changes. If you go down to I guess it starts on page 3 of 15, you can see that we've highlighted where the changes were made. So there's just some, I'll call it housekeeping, cleaning up of terminology. We added a section under policy that just speaks to, in conjunction with this and other county policies, there are many other controls in place to ensure the county's financial expenditures are monitored at various levels. So we've listed those below. I think that's an important add-on to this policy, so council is aware of what we're doing internally to ensure that the controls are in place. We cleaned up some of the language around titles, since there's been some title changes since this was originally adopted. We added under the definitions an expression of interest. So this is an opportunity. It's outside of the help me out, Devin. What do we ask for? Not an expression of interest, but RFP, pardon me. That's wasn't coming to my head, request for proposal. So outside of that is a request, expression of interest. So this is just an opportunity to present a clear professional document to provide important information, demonstrate sustainability, interest, and availability in relation to a position. So I guess if we're looking, like the financial software would be a good example of that. It's very finite. Municipal software is very specific, and there's only so many companies within Canada, I guess, that offer that. So we'd maybe put out an expression of interest if any of those companies would want to work with the county. We also added an invitation to tender. So this is a request for bids for prices on specific goods and services from a supplier to be submitted in writing. And then we didn't have a request for proposal, we just have request for quotation, I believe. So we updated that as well within the definitions. Outside of that, those were the biggest changes. We updated the New West Partnership Trade Agreement and added in the Canadian Free Trade Agreement, just because of some name changes there. Those are just legislative. And we kept the decision chart the same as it previously was. So this just allows for, as I mentioned, if there's any unplanned, unbudgeted or over expenditures, that there's a chart there with the type of expenditure, be it emergency, core service, discretionary, or capital. We give some definitions around the situation and then approval authority based on dollar amounts and who gets to make that decision ultimately. And that is basically the updates to Policy 170.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions from council? Claus.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When did we make that competitive process for, from the $10,000 to the $75,000? Was that last year that we made that one? Or before? From prospective vendors.
Yeah, I think that was in 2017.
Oh, okay, way back.
Mr.
really.
Chairman,
Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
Anything further from council? Or from administration? John?
I'd like to move that the revisions to policy 170 be adopted.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed?
Lauren as well in favor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Carried. Thanks, Jen. G4, administration, county council meeting, date changes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ann.
Okay. Just going to. Sorry, I'm getting fogged. So I'm sure council has had an opportunity to read this report. Traditionally, at this time of year, we set the dates for council meetings for 2022 for next year. And the executive summary is that we changed the December 2nd meeting. We've noticed that the two new members of council, myself, will be attending the Munis 101 course. We attempted to get in at the RMA conference, but because of the extent of turnover in the province, all the Munis 101 courses have been full. So we will be attending here in Lethbridge, and that does occur on December 2nd and 3rd. So we are proposing moving the council meeting to December 6th. In addition to that, we usually schedule meetings in January, February, and March. And instead of having 2 meetings a month, we have 1 a month. And this is because there's various other conferences and attendances, and as well as our strategic planning session. So we're looking at scheduling council meetings January, February, and March for the following dates: Thursday, January 13th, Thursday, February 3rd, and March 10th.
Thank you, CAO Mitchell. Any questions from council? Yep, Morris.
The only thing I can say is, at one time, we had quite a few 2 regular meetings per month, And it always looked to me it was necessary because the length of the agenda we had and maybe some of the information council was presented. And it seems to be, to me, that somewhat is going by the wayside, but maybe Ann would have an answer for that.
Yeah, we've tried to streamline the meetings a bit, Councillor Zeenstra, and the challenge is with all of the conferences that go on at the beginning. There's Ag Service Board, there's the, what's that other one? There's Brownlee's Emerging Trends. There's a lot going on that council has to attend in January and February. It's not really internally, it's more externally. But we do manage to make all our timelines, and if staff are aware ahead of time of when the meeting dates are, we can make sure everything's on the agenda. Did that answer your question? Or you were speaking more broadly?
Well, no, not that I'm complaining, maybe, what I'm trying to say and the way I'm thinking down here, maybe things are being a lot better streamlined from what it used to be, and maybe that's why we're not having as many meetings as what we used to have. And so, to me, that's almost complimenting staff for getting the job done.
We'll take it, thank you.
Mark?
Just clarification, so we would have one meeting a month as opposed to two. However, if situation arose where we needed to call one, council always has the right to call a meeting. At any
Absolutely.
time.
There's always the option to call a special meeting if business arises that we have to address in a timely fashion.
Thank you.
John?
Yeah, so just a clarification on that. So we're talking about January, February, and March only. We're not talking about in further dates of having one meeting a month. We're just talking about those 3 specific months.
You're correct. And then in April, we would go back to our 2 meetings. Also, the development permits usually ramp up in the spring as well, too, so it'd be prudent for us to go back to the 2 meetings.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and as Ann spoke to, during my time on council anyways, and obviously pre-pandemic, January, February, March was the biggest crush for us. As Ann said, we usually spend quite a bit of time traveling. January, ASB, Brownlee, we would usually have our local meetings for RMA, as well as we get into March, we're back into the provincial conference, as well as there's usually a planning or economic development. So it is usually a busier stretch, and at the same time, as Ann alluded to, it usually is a bit slower on the county council business side of things, as we development tends to be a little slower at that time. So in the past it has worked well, and to Mark's question, we have obviously had instances where we do have some time sensitive material, and with the call of the chair, we have held special meetings to facilitate that. Anything further? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion. Klaus?
I'll move that County Council reschedule the December 2nd, 2021 council meeting to Monday, December 6th, 2021 to accommodate attendance of the Munis 101 course in Lethbridge. And that County Council schedules the one council meeting each for the months of January, February, and March 2022, and to the following dates. That's Thursday, January 13th, 2022, Thursday, February 3rd, 2022, and March 10th, 2022. And further, that these dates may be advertised in the Sunny South News, county website, and the social media pages.
Thank you, Klaus. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. Thank you.
And for council's information, all of that will be put into your calendars.
Thank you, Ann. Seeing no further business on the agenda, we would move down to J, closed session. And If I could, Larry, could I trouble you to put you on the spot for a second and just maybe, as this is our first time going into a closed session with this council, maybe just provide the public and the members of council the rationale behind that?
Certainly. I'll do my best here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So to go into a closed session, the reason for going into the closed session must be one of the reasons included in the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. Council can't, just because they feel something is maybe uncomfortable or awkward to discuss in public, that's not a good enough reason. It must meet legislative requirements. So examples of that are, acquisition or disposition of land where a discussion in the public forum might influence or, give an advantage or a disadvantage to the municipality for, purchase price or selling price, that sort of thing. Matters of human resources typically are in there. Law enforcement matters, should they arise, those sorts of things. Again, there's a list in the Freedom of Information Protection of Privacy Act. So during a closed meeting, during a regular meeting, council may at any time decide to go into a closed meeting. Just need a motion essentially to do so, and then the public is excluded from hearing those deliberations. During the closed meeting, council may not make any resolutions or pass any motions, other than to maybe have a recess or something, but no motions of substance. But they can kind of discuss and make an informal decision, I suppose. And then after that closed meeting, closed discussion is complete, they come out of the closed session, back into the open session. And at that point, if there was some sort of guidance or recommendation out of the discussion from the closed meeting, a motion can be made. Often, if it's still kind of sensitive in nature, the motion may not be excessively descriptive as to what's going on, so as to not reveal any details that should still be kept confidential at that point. But that's how that would work, and then carry on with the regular meeting. If at the end, as in the case here, it would appear today, there's no further business, then the regular meeting would be adjourned as per normal protocol and activity and process.
Thank you, Larry. Sorry for putting you on the spot there, but I appreciate that explanation. I know that is something that I've been asked when out in the public. Obviously we are bound by rules like everyone else is, and it's important that we make that clear. And so thank you for the explanation.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Having heard that, I would entertain a motion to enter a closed session. Thank you, Morris. So we have two items in front of us. The first, the land request. How would council like to proceed? John?
I'd like to make a motion that the council recommend signing the letter of intent, non-binding letter of intent to dispose of that parcel land.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And on the second matter, the public utility lot. John?
I'd like to make a motion that we table that till we get further information regarding the disposition of that parcel.
Is that agreeable? Excellent. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And if there is nothing further? Thank you. John?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff. Thank you, council.